One of the things that really excites me about bringing fiberglass mold making workshops to the precast concrete industry is to see how fast everyone ramps up on it. After some initial foundation, everyone finds that the concepts and processes are pretty familiar, and there are many parallels between composite mold making and GFRC. And when you think about it, it shouldn't be a surprise because GFRC itself is a composite process. And it's not just a coincidence that they share a commonality in their acronyms of GFRC, glass fiber reinforced concrete, and GFRP, glass fiber reinforced polymer, or more commonly, FRP. Now, one of the challenges in getting started though with composite mold making that I want to help you overcome is simply identifying the right distributors for the tools and materials best suited for our needs. Sound familiar? Just like precast concrete, the proper tools and materials make a huge difference in terms of the overall quality of your finished product. And working with the right distributors geared for this application really puts you in the best position for success. So in this video, I'm going to review the distributors that I work with to help you with a starting point. Now, by no means is this an exhaustive list. There are many other relevant fiberglass distributors out there, and at the end of the day, there are many factors for you to consider when choosing distributors to work with, including pricing, proximity, lead time and availability, material selection, and customer and technical support, just to name a few. So obviously go with what works best for you and your business, using the considerations I mentioned here as a starting point. Now, as you start to get more serious about incorporating fiberglass for mold making and other parts into your business, Composites One is a distributor that should be at or near the top of your list. They're one of the largest, if not the largest distributors of composite materials in North America. They have a healthy range of distribution centers to work with, so lead time should be fairly low. Now, depending on your proximity to a distribution center, you might be pleasantly surprised to find that shipping is typically free on orders that meet a minimum threshold, $350 at the time of this video. You might even be able to drive to a local distribution center for will call pickup. My local DC is about an hour away, which is super handy in those situations, which are many, where I need something in the same day. Now, they supply an extremely broad set of tools and materials to suit any need you're going to run into and beyond. And in most cases, they're going to have the lowest pricing you'll find. Now, a couple things to consider working with Composites One. They're more geared for the composites professional. Now, it's not hard, but there is a bit of overhead in getting started. You'll need to set up an account with them, and you'll be assigned a customer service rep and a technical sales rep. Now, they're straightforward to work with if you know exactly what you need, but like any large distributor, it can be a little daunting when you're first getting started and maybe don't know exactly what you need. My workshops will help you navigate that. Now, you'll have to order in larger quantities, so chemicals like resin and gel coat are 5-gallon pail minimum, and materials like chop strand mat are sold in rolls. Now, at first, that might be a barrier to entry as you may be wanting to start smaller and working your way up. Everything you purchase needs to be quoted near real time. Now, this is a result of them working with extremely large volumes and the associated price fluctuation. It generally works in your favor, but even when you know exactly what you need, expect to work through a rep. This has proven to be a bottleneck on occasion. Now, self-service exists. They do have a B2B online site, but it's pretty hard to navigate. You're not going to go to their site and explore, search, learn, browse, find inspiration and all that stuff. It's really just geared for ordering. Now, not only do you need a CSR to quote your pricing, but because the range of products they offer is so broad and serves so many industries and applications, you'll almost always have to work with a CSR to even identify the right products. Let's take a look at a couple of examples. If we were to search the site for tooling resin, you'll see a whole lot of results that are actually not appropriate for our application. The most current and readily available is iso or isophthalic resin, but that won't appear in searches for tooling resin in this case. That can be a little tricky to find. Another example is the gel coat gun. Again, you'll see lots of results here, yet none of those are actually what we're looking for. On the other hand, if you search for dump gun, bingo, that's what we need. So it can be a little tricky and maybe even frustrating to find what you're looking for on your own. Now, on that note, watch out for pricing on individual smaller one-offs. That gel coat gun is a little on the high side at $200 compared to other sources. Now, overall, Composites One is a solid distributor to work with, especially as you level up your game. They become my go-to, especially for reloading common materials like gel coat, resin, and fiberglass mat. You'll get the best pricing, probably the lowest lead times, and they're going to have everything you need to be successful in fiberglass mold making. Now, another distributor that I really like working with is US Composites. In fact, they're the first distributor geared for this application that I started with many years ago. My first order of Silmar 249, also known as surfboard resin, was from US Composites, and I still order a bit from them today. Now, their pricing is going to be really competitive and comparable to Composites One for the majority of the materials that we work with. And while dated and hard to find, their e-commerce site is actually .net, not .com. They have a functional, no-frills website that allows you all the self-service capabilities you'd expect. Browse, easily find items, see pricing, add to cart, see shipping quotes, check out, all without needing to contact a human. Now, they don't have the breadth of products you'd find at Composites One, but in my opinion, that's a good thing. For our application, they have all the products we need without all the distraction of the products that we don't need. And their selection makes it easier to find exactly what you're looking for. Also, unlike Composites One, they supply the products we need in smaller quantities. Really handy and can make it much easier for those just getting started. They're also much more competitive on pricing for individual items like tools. Take that gel coat gun, for example. $137 at US Composites. Couple things to consider there. The best of my knowledge, US Composites has just one location, and that's in Florida. So depending on where you are, that might be just fine, but for me, being all the way on the other side of the country in California, it almost always means a minimum of a week in lead time, and more importantly, pretty steep shipping rates. That said, I almost always get my shipments in about a week. Now, their customer service is super friendly and very knowledgeable, but I have on occasion had to call in to find out what's going on with a particular order I placed online that sort of just seems stuck in limbo. But I think that has to do more with their systems than their people. Overall, US Composites is another really solid distributor. I don't use them as much anymore, but they're easy to work with, they provide a functional self-service, and really competitive pricing. If you're in the Southeast, they may be just the distributor for you, but keep in mind those lead times and shipping costs if you're elsewhere in the country. All right, next on my list is Composite Envisions. Now, this is a great distributor and I order from them regularly. You can see from their website, they're more retail and online friendly, and they've got a great selection of quality materials to fit our needs. Their website is much easier to navigate and find products than either Composites One or US Composite. Their self-service is what you'd expect from a modern online experience. Now, they're located in Wisconsin, which results in lead times that are pretty attractive from almost anywhere in the US and maybe even North America. And I don't know what they're doing, but they're doing something right because they provide by far the lowest shipping rates I've seen. They have excellent customer service and offer rush delivery, adult signature on delivery, and other value-added services if needed. They also have the best selection of certain highly specific materials, like Duratec, that I use quite a bit in my mold making and workshops. Now, like US Composites, they also offer the core products we need in smaller quantities. Some things to consider working with them. Now, while they offer all the relevant tools and materials, lately I've been noticing that they're more and more out of stock on a number of go-to items. So keep that in mind, especially if you're in a pinch. Now, their pricing is gonna be higher than Composites One and US Composites for the same material. Some are not a big deal, others are pretty significant. Let's take a look at a couple of examples. First, we'll start with tooling gel coat. On Composite Envisions, you can see here a gallon of tooling gel coat at the time of this video is listed for just over $162. Now compare that to orders I just placed with Composites One. For a 5-gallon pail, my cost was $325. Apples to apples, that's over a 2.5 times difference in price. Now granted, you can't buy a gallon at Composites One, so for comparison, let's take a look at US Composite. You'll notice that their pricing is much closer to Composites One at $389 per pail, and for 1 gallon of tooling gel coat, it comes in at just under $90. Quite a bit less expensive than you'd find at Composite Envisions. Now, resin's gonna be closer but similar. 1 gallon of ISO tooling resin, there you go, currently out of stock, is $57, where at US Composites it's $50, and at Composites One it's roughly $215 a pail or $43 a gallon. Now, another thing to consider is they don't generally ship larger quantities like pails of gel coat and resin, nor rolls of chop strand mat. Now, this won't be a problem if that's all you need, as this helps them keep their shipping costs down, but eventually you're gonna find that the costs add up as you start ordering and reloading larger quantities of material. So just for a sanity check, you'll go through about a half a gallon of tooling gel coat and most of a 5-gallon pail of tooling resin to pull something like a 48-inch firebolt mold. Now, overall, I really like Composite Envisions. They're easy to work with, provide all the materials you need, albeit in smaller quantities. They have a very friendly and easy to navigate self-service experience and provide excellent customer service. They're centrally located, so lead times and shipping will be favorable, but their unit prices are generally going to be higher than other larger distributors. United Industrial Sales is another distributor that I like working with and recommend checking out. Now, you won't find bulk materials like gel coat, resins, and fiber reinforcements there. Instead, they focus on providing a relevant selection of supplemental tools and supplies tailored for the composites industry. Let's take a look at a few examples. First, we'll start with the dump gun. Not only do they sell the gun at a relatively competitive price, but they sell every individual part for a complete rebuild if needed. Super handy. On the same page, you'll notice they also offer HVLP gel coat gun. I have the 2.5, and it's not only a great option for gel coating smaller molds, but also spraying viscous materials like Duratec face up for pattern prep. Roller heads are another item you might find reloading over time. Take these bristle rollers. You don't need to buy the entire frame. If anything happens, usually it's the head that's either worn out or become unusable due to resin buildup. They're a great source for roller head replacement. You'll also find specialty mold prep materials that, for whatever reason, have become hard to find elsewhere. Take hunting wax as one example. A really popular wax, yet it seems to have basically disappeared from most sources. You can still get it at United Industrial Sales. Now, a couple things to consider. Like Composites One, you need to set up an account with them, and you need to be logged in before you can even see price. It's kind of annoying. I've also often been surprised by shipping costs, as they don't quote those at the time of placing an online order. They always come after the fact. So when ordering from them, I've resorted to calling in to be able to get the shipping quote, which goes against my preference for just doing everything online. Now, United Industrial Sales is a great distributor for specialty tools and supplies outside of the bulk fiberglass materials that you'd get elsewhere. They're a good source to hit up on an as-needed basis. Now, the next recommendation I'd make is not a specific distributor, but the mindset of finding a local distributor. Depending on where you're located, with a little research, you might find a local distributor that carries the specialty products we need for high quality mold making. One such example for me is Fiberglass Source. I know them as Surf Supply. They're in Southern California, and when I lived there, they were a 10-minute drive away. Even after moving, I still order from them on occasion. Now, they provide a narrow selection more geared toward the surfboard industry, but they supply the same quality materials we're looking for in tooling. Tooling gel coat, tooling resin, and chop strand mat, all available in smaller quantity. They've also got a great selection of related tools. Now, I find that their pricing is somewhere between Composites One and Composite Envisions, with the benefit of a short lead time, usually a couple of days. Now, I have to give a special shout out to Artie and Douglas and Sturgeon. They have 2 locations in the Bay Area, Richmond and San Francisco, and they're a little bit more geared for art supplies, so they don't stock the tooling materials we need, but they're a great source for various fillers, which are helpful in manipulating your resin for different situations. We'll cover those in the workshops, along with a vast selection of other mold making products like rubber and plaster. Now, that place is like a frickin' candy store. In general, I still get better pricing and availability for the bulk materials from Composites One, but at the trade-off of needing to order larger quantity. That said, if I'm in a pinch and when a smaller quantity is all I need, I often look to Surf Supply and Douglas and Sturgis. Good to have local distributors like that in your back pocket. Now, we can't mention a list of sources without Amazon. In general, Amazon is not going to be a great distributor for fiberglass supplies and materials. These are specialty items best sourced from distributors in the industry. That said, it's Amazon, and there are quite a few items they sell whose price you just cannot beat anywhere else. For example, in my workshops, I teach the most effective ways to use various spray guns. And for the dump gun, I highly recommend using the 32-ounce disposable paper cups. Now, you can source these directly from the distributors I mentioned earlier, but you're not even going to come close to the bulk pricing you'll find on Amazon. For exactly the same product, you pay about half of what you'd pay an industry distributor, even in bulk. A 500 count case of cups that fit the gel coat gun on United Industrial Sales is $278. On Amazon, $151. And when I last purchased them, they were $106. Now, other items to look for are safety and personal protective equipment. I bought my 3M mask and reload my vapor cartridges, coveralls, Tyvek suits, and Thickster latex gloves, essential when working with acetone and other solvents, all from Amazon. Be careful of some of the specialty tools though. What may look like the same equipment will very likely be a knockoff on Amazon. Take the dump gun as just one example. Everything looks the same, but if you look closely at the nozzles, the cap, and the trigger, it's easy to see it's not the same equipment. Now, it might work just fine, but I'd be a little hesitant as I'm not sure what kind of support and spare parts you're gonna get with that product like that compared to the original, which has been around forever and you can easily maintain. Remember those replacement parts we saw at United Industrial Sales. Okay, there is one last distributor I wanted to mention. If you've done any research in fiberglass, you've undoubtedly come across Fibreglast. If you Google Fibreglass tools, supplies, and materials, you'll almost always see them at the top of the results. Now, they have an incredibly helpful online experience with an easy to navigate catalog, all the relevant tools and materials, and probably the best online help resources I've seen. Unfortunately, everything they stock across the board is significantly marked up. Now, at first I thought it was just for specific items, but I promise you it's across the board and it is crazy. Let's take a look at a couple examples and you'll see what I mean. We'll start with the gel coat gun. As I mentioned earlier, the best pricing I found is at US Composites for 137 bucks. Now, I've sourced several of those. Theirs is legit and I've had zero issues. It's the gun I currently use. Composite Envisions and United Industrial Sales both stock it for right around 170 bucks. And Composites One, it's surprisingly high at 200, but again, remember what I mentioned about their focus on materials and volume. Fibreglast, 225 bucks. Now you might say to me, Sean, that's not that big a deal, especially for a one-off. Let's look at some other items that you're going to reload over time. We'll start with tooling gel coat. Now when I first saw this, I said to myself, hey, that's actually not that bad, especially when Composite Envisions sells it for like 162 bucks. But then I did a double take and realized that's 90 bucks a quart. A gallon of tooling gel coat at Fibreglast sells for $240, and a 5-gallon pail is $850 without MEKP. Now remember, a 5-gallon pail at Composites One was 325 bucks. That's almost 3 times the cost. And for what it's worth, it's the exact same product. I've looked at the TDS for each, and aside from the branding, it's word for word. Want more examples? Let's take a look at resin. Looking up ISO tooling resin, again, 110 bucks a gallon, 400 bucks a pail compared to 215 a pail at Composites One. Chop strand mat, Composites One, 100-yard roll, a 38-inch wide, 1.5 ounce mat is just under 300 bucks. At Fibreglass, just under 700 bucks. Try it for yourself and you'll see every product across the board is significantly marked up. Now, I've got nothing against Fiberglass, and I have no dog in this race of distributor. I'm not sponsored by or in partnership with any of these distributors in any way. And I applaud Fiberglass for providing such a helpful online knowledge base of information. I've used it myself. I just can't get over how insane they're pricing it, even against other similar online e-tailers. At the end of the day, of course, the choice is yours. I just wanted to call it out so you can make the decision to work with distributors like Fiberglass eyes wide open. Make sure you're comparing apples to apples and watch out for those price differences. Well, hopefully that was a helpful review of the top distributors I'd recommend at least exploring and getting familiar with. Now keep in mind, this is just a few of the many that are out there. If you have thoughts or other sources you'd recommend, please comment below. I'd love your input. At the end of the day, choose distributors that are best for you and your business and treat this as a helpful starting point. Any questions? Give me a shout. I'm happy to help. Keep taking those creations to the next level, and I'll see you in the next one.